So, welcome everyone. What we're going to be doing today, as you were just introduced, is building an idea expander app using AI. So, if you were able to come to the class, the last one I did, or if you weren't, you kind of saw basically how we went from point A to point Z of being able to build an app or what an app would look like using AI. More so a simple app. So, nothing like too complex where you are kind of having like user login or anything where you have to worry about like privacy or security issues. What we mostly did with was like kind of like a web application that someone can just kind of go on and use or anything like that. But for this one, it's also going to be just as simple, but the only thing that's going to be added to this lesson is kind of looking at the code a little bit. So I know a lot of people who are using AI to build their apps or vibe coding. Most of us don't really know code or how to code, or even understand like what's going on. So I won't dive too deep into the code, but I'll show like snippets of what's going on and how that kind of applies to the app that we're using. Okay. So just to introduce myself, if you weren't here last class, my name is Shadeira Nesmith. I'm an educator, I'm a tech mentor, I'm also a speaker and a founder, and I've been in the edtech space for about 10 years now. So teaching kids as young as 4 to adult learners in the age 60 plus. So anybody who's transitioning into tech, maybe others who are just kind of wanting to expand their tech skills or anything like that. So that's kind of been what I've been helping with, just helping people kind of understand tech more or just feeling more comfortable about learning technology without feeling overwhelmed or feeling like it's something that they can't use or learn about. So that's kind of like a bit of what I've been doing these past few years. So kind of going over what we'll cover today. So starting with what is an AI code builder. So last time I showed attendees how to use V0 and Base 44 to build the same app and kind of showing the differences if I built it on one platform versus another platform. So there's so many AI platforms to use. But you really have to pick one depending on what your style is or what you like. So I would say some people might like the user interface of another app builder versus another one. So for me, I use multiple. So sometimes I don't just build on one if I prefer another one, or I might like the user interface of another one. Maybe they give me better results when I prompt it, or I don't have to prompt as much. Sometimes also it could be the price as well. For some web applications where you're building user interfaces or just apps, some of them are credit based, so it's easier to use. Like you get more credits. Sometimes you don't have as many features. Some of them let you get all the features when it's free. So a lot plays into this AI code builder, especially if you're just starting out and you're not sure if this is something you want to like move forward with. You want to start with something that's more in the free end, because if you start paying for stuff then you're like, actually I don't really want to do this. So that also plays a big part. So I'll walk through some of those. We'll take a look at some of those and kind of like what might be best for the specific task that you're trying to do. Then we'll go over the anatomy of prompting. So again, how do you prompt something well enough to get to that exact result that you're looking for? Again, sometimes when we're prompting, we'll say something. If we have an issue, we'll be like, fix this, and the AI just has to understand like what to fix. Like I've recently been building out an app, and I know I had like a few issues in it, but I didn't know specifically what the issue was, because sometimes you can be like, can you fix this button on this page? But what I did is I said, any issues or errors that you see within any of these pages in my code, can you just fix it? Because sometimes that's what it is. Like you don't really know what the issue is and you don't have time to look through every single page. So you just ask to fix any error that it may spot. But again, when you're prompting, just be specific of like, what issues do you want me to fix? I'm like on every page, not just fix an issue. Okay. Then we'll go through a live demo of building an idea app. I'll show you the one that I built. Well, the expander app, and then I'll do a little activity with you all, and I'll give you all a prompt to do, and then you try to build something out, and then we'll share out like kind of what you got from that code. And then understanding the code. So again, looking through the code, seeing what we see, seeing what we like, understanding that part, and then understanding fixing bugs in AI. How do we approach that part when we are feeling stressed or like, okay, I don't know where to go next or what to do next. And then some next steps and how you would kind of deploy an app on these applications. So when we talk about AI code builders, so here's a few that are really useful and that a lot of developers are using when they're building out these applications. Most times we talk about software developers, and I think the main thing that people have or issues that they talk about is like, okay, we're entering this new space of AI, and it's not something that, like, there are many, I think, usually when I do speaking engagements, like a lot of questions I always get is about like AI ethics or like the the damage that AI is kind of doing on like the environment and different things like that. And although those are really important topics, we're still in the space where AI is advancing so much that it's not going anywhere. So it's like one person can't fix like everything. So ideally, you still would need to learn it to just keep up with the times and just keep up with the work that you want to do. Because what you'll find yourself trying to avoid using it because of this or that is that you'll be like left behind within just completing stuff. Like we live in a really fast-paced world, and it's kind of like if you don't get it, somebody else is going to get it before you. So it's just something that it's just useful tool. Like is you don't have to overuse it, or you don't have to use it to be like, what shoes should I wear today? But again, it's like something where it's like, okay, I really need help with this task. How do I, just complete this a bit faster? So, AI Code Builder is basically a tool that reads like things in plain English. So again, you can just describe it and it builds it for you, and then it generates some working code. So you can build real software without writing every line hand by hand, which we used to have to do. So the main one that I use often is called V0. And this is basically like a chat UI. So it gives you an instant React app, and then you're able to see the front end and the UI of that project, right? So you see it building right in front of you, and then you're able to see what it is within minutes. So it doesn't take an hour, it doesn't take days. It builds what it does for you, and then it gives you the code, and you're able to kind of go back and forth and see what you can do. Another one is Cursor. So this is kind of an AI powered code editor. So you can download this on your computer. If anyone has used VS Code before, it's like a code editor that you can do on the web, or you can download on your computer. And this basically AI writes alongside of you. So think of it as like you're coding something simple, and then AI is kind of helping you code those things. Like instead of telling it like, hey, I want to build like a notes app, what you would do is start building your notes app, and then they'll start completing sentences for you. So kind of what we're used to, like even using iPhones or anything like that, you're trying to complete a sentence and it starts to complete for you. That's kind of what Cursor does within this space. And this is probably more efficient for people who are usually coders. Also Claude. So Claude does this as well. It's more conversational. So it's AI that explains, it debugs full applications. You can also build web apps on this as well. It helps with other stuff. So I know a lot of people have been using Chat GPT to build a lot of things or ask questions. But what Claude is doing, Claude is like a more advanced version. So a lot of people are switching over from Chat to Claude, because Claude works as more of a helper rather than Chat is kind of turning into like a Google search engine. So a lot of times, if any of you own businesses, what they're telling you to do now is like prompting AI to know about your business. So ideally what that would look like is kind of introducing AI to your business. Now when people are in the search engine, they're not Googling what is the best restaurant in this city. They're on chat, asking Chat GPT, what is the best restaurant in this city? So now, if you're able to put that into chat and have it like prompt out your restaurant or anything, your coffee shop first, or your business first, that's puts you ahead of a lot of people rather than people using Google. So that's the same with apps like Pinterest or anything like that. People are using these apps for specific things, and you have to be ahead of the curve and seeing where you fit in there. So then we have GitHub Copilot. So this is also similar to Cursor and like code suggestions. So helping you with what might be better, what can help you do this, or what can help you do that. But again, what we're focusing on today is the app builders that instantly work. So like V0, another one is Base 44. We have Lovable. I think it's another one called like Code Anything. So there's a lot of them, but some of them just work better than others. Also, another one I think is Google has one, the Google Gemini Studio. And I'm just gonna show a few of those just so we can kind of see the difference of like interfaces of what those look like, okay? Um, and just let me know, is my screen switching? Do you see my google.com? Yeah. Can I get a thumbs up somewhere? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna go to V0 first. It's gonna So this is what V0 looks like. Again, you can just put in what you want to build here. You can say something simple like build a to-do list app and it'll have it done for you. The more simple your code is, also the easier it is to build certain things as well. And then it puts your projects here. They also have like different sections where you can see the community of what other people are building, especially when you first go onto the app. Then we have Base 44. And this is another one. Again, same thing. What you'll also notice, what I would say too, play around with different app builders when you're building and see which one you like the most. Because you might use one and you might think you like it the most, and then you use another one and you're like, wait, this one is way better. So I would say dive and find the one that you like or you feel is more has a more functionalities that you enjoy. What I noticed with the difference between like something like V0 and Base 44, with Base 44, what it does, if you can see here, it gives me like it builds out like the entire like app for me in a way where I just have to make like smaller tweaks, but at the same time I would still have to keep like telling it what to do to get exactly what I want. But what it does is it gives you a name for your app. So even if you don't name it, it creates like a an icon for your app or like a logo per se, and then you can directly deploy your app from Base 44 to the App Store. So that's another thing that it has that's really I would say functional within that way. So again, what I would say when you are building, because you do have to be like approved by the App Store. So if you are missing certain things, they'd be like, hey, go back and add this functionality to different things or whatever the case may be. With V0, it's easy to just deploy it to the web. So you can just put by a domain name, deploy it to the web, and then it's up and running instead of having to use like Netlify or I would say like a web hosting site or anything like that. It kind of hosts that for you, and you can pay a monthly on here, or you can kind of get it for free. But I think a certain amount of users can be on your page. Another one I know is really popular is Lovable. So with Lovable as well, this one also builds really well, and I think you can deploy directly from Lovable to let me see, it's like you can deploy directly from Lovable to the App Store, I believe. But this is also another one that a lot of people have been building on. I think a lot of things with these applications, also you want to work with ones that are best at debugging. Because sometimes they don't really debug really well on a lot of these. So a lot of people fall into a lot of issues where they might have to start to reach out to a developer like, hey, I need extra help. Then we have Google's AI Studio. So this also can build an app. I'm not a fan of Google Gemini. I feel like they're still in the process of getting good. So this one I haven't used too much of, but I have a friend that built an app on here, and they built a really like good functioning app. So this is also something that you can kind of look through. Okay. So going back here, so those are the main ones that you can like kind of explore. So when we talk about the anatomy of a good prompt, so what it does. So basically, one thing that it does is you have to kind of define like the ingredients of what you really need in order for it to build something. So we talk about what it does. So when we talk about something like the Expander app, an app where you type one sentence and AI expands it to bullet points and outlines. Like that's plain and simple. Like I don't have to say too much, but I'm saying enough so the AI builder, app builder can understand. Who's this for? Someone who wants to plan personal goals and projects visually. Then we have the screens. How do you want it? There's a start screen, there's a sticky note board, there's an accomplished goals jar. So, kind of explaining the UI. You can also, what I did last time is I told people about Behance. So, Behance is kind of like a creator's um I would say like platform to look at different app build outs. So if you don't have in mind what you want your UI to be or what you want it to look like, you can come to here and say, hey, I want you to create this exact format. Or anything like that to kind of really just help you understand what this may look like for your app that you're building out. And then you can kind of be like, hey, I want my page for exercises to look like this, because sometimes you do go into a creative funk where you don't know what you want things to look like until you actually see it. Then let's talk about special behaviors. So each day this shows me a task to work on. When it's done, the sticky note moves into the jar. So when I was building the idea expander app, because I was doing, well, I'm currently still doing a 30 days of building things with AI. What this looks like is I asked it to make a sticky note board. I copied, Figma has like where you could add sticky notes. I copied the UI of Figma and I said, can you make a sticky note board? It didn't do that though. Okay, so that's another thing you might run into. You tell it to do something and it doesn't do that, but then you have to keep prompting it to be like, okay, this is what I want it to look like. Can you do this for me? When I create a sticky note, when I create this idea, I want you to create sticky notes from there. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, let's see, how many? Okay, it's like about give or take like 15 of us in the room. I'm gonna show you the idea expander app that I built first, kind of like a more simple approach. It isn't anything too complex. I'll show you the prompt that I kind of used to build it out, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do breakout rooms, probably 2 to 3 people a room, and I'm gonna give each breakout room a task to do, and we're gonna take probably about like 10 minutes or so, and you're gonna prompt AI using whichever one you want, V0, Base 44, or Lovable, Google AI Studio, and then you're gonna take this anatomy of good prompting for the four bullets that we have here and try to build something based off that. Okay. So let's see, and then whatever we get through, we get through. So let me show you the idea expander. So this is, hopefully it pops up. So this is again something really simple. So I just asked, can it build a idea expander? So for my prompt here, I said I would like to create an idea expander app that when you type one sentence, AI turns it into ideas, bullets, or outlines. So another thing that people also don't realize, like ChatGPT, Claude, anything like that, you can use this for all of this. Like you don't have to create a whole another platform for anything. But what happens with those platforms, they don't have like a UI that kind of has a visual aspect to it. So a lot of people are building different things with a lot of people are building other apps outside of those apps so that people can do it for specific things. So what if I just want to do idea expander? I don't want to have to keep going to ChatGPT to do all these things. Like I just want something specific for this. So this is why people are building out these apps, because they're taking idea and just making it one specific thing for that thing. Like they're not trying to just have a tool that has everything. Okay, so this is kind of what this is. So you type one sentence, AI turns it into ideas, bullets, or outlines. There is a start screen that allows you to map out your idea, and the screen that posts my idea like a post sticky note. So this is what I told it. And I set a date, an idea, and a goal I want to complete. And it gives me one thing to work on every day to meet the goal. And once I complete the goal, that sticky note goes into a jar for 2026 goal complete, use these images as reference. So this is the image that I asked it to use. So I'm like, can you give me this? It didn't do that. So ideally with V0 as well, it's not as visually capable as other applications like Lovable or Base 44. Like they're able to kind of take something like this and prompt it into something. Like something I built with Base 44 is like a piano app, where you can play like songs on the piano. But Base 40 V0 probably wouldn't have been able to create that UI of the piano as well as Base 44. So that's why I kind of deal with different app builders, because sometimes one might just build better than the other. So that it's kind of really up to you. But sometimes V0 is best for certain projects that I want to do. So let me just show you how this would work here. So after I prompted, it prompted it for me. It told me what it was going to do. It said a board view with sticky notes. Didn't do that, but okay. It talked about an idea of your app, and then an idea input screen, a goal creation, sticky note board, so on. Okay. So I'm going to say if anybody could put in the chat of an idea as I think, or just give me something simple. It can just be like an idea, maybe planning an event or anything like that. If anybody has something in mind, what can I do as an idea to expand on? Anybody? You can also say it out loud if you want. No one has an idea. It could be really simple. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Samuel. So, how to organize a hackathon. So, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to expand on it. And then what this is going to do is going to generate a prompt of an idea of how I really expand on this idea. So your original idea is how to organize a hackathon. And then the key points it gives me, it says define clear goals, target audience, theme, tracks, success metrics, whether the event is in person or virtual, hybrid, establish formatting, team size, set a date, venue, Wi-Fi power, build a team of organizers, recruit mentors, judges, secure sponsors, partners, cover budget, design detailed event schedule, workshops, promote a hackathon with targeted marketing, plan prizes, award ceremony, and so on. So it expanded on this idea, give it. So I said how to organize a hackathon, and it gave me all the key points of how I would organize a hackathon. Okay. And then I gave it, it gave me an outline structure. So it says section one, this is what you do. Section two, this is what you would do. So now I'm going to turn this into a goal. So now what this looks like, I expanded my idea. Now I'm going to set this goal for 2026 of planning this hackathon. And then I'm going to turn it into that. So it gave me the goal name. Again, you could edit the goal name. You could give it a description of, what else. Then I would set a date for when I want to either have this goal completed by. So it wouldn't be the date of the hackathon more so, it would just be a date I want to complete this by. So I'm going to create a random date. So now what you notice too, I clicked on create goal, but nothing's happening. Like you have to wait to see it. You have to wait until it goes to that next page to see what it creates. That's also something that you want to avoid when building apps. Like you always want your app to respond to someone. So whether I click it, whether it shows a loading page or something of the sort. So this was its version of creating sticky notes, which wasn't too bad, but I wanted it more to look like more of a sticky note, but it did try to make a sticky note page. So if we go here, so this is the hackathon. So now what it did is it gave me a task to complete every single day in order to organize this hackathon. So one day it says create one page event brief in Google Docs, listing the hackathon name, proposed dates, participants, and so on. And then you would complete a goal every day until you have kind of finished everything that you need to complete for that day. Okay. Then once that's complete, it'll give you like a progress tracking. Over here, once you have something completed, it'll put it in this jar. I actually wanted to do like a visual jar where you can see, you click on it and it goes into an actual like jar or anything like that. So those are little things that you, when you are building an app, just being a little more specific on what that looks like. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna do another one. So we have another one in the chat, and let's see what it does with that goal. So this one is an AI powered project organizer for students. So I'm gonna expand on this. And usually with applications as well, this loading time is not too bad, because if you think about it, this is kind of using AI to expand on this. So if you think about Chat GPT and you access stuff, it has a thinking process to it. So ideally, sometimes we're, again, we live in a fast-paced world. We want things, excuse me, we want things quickly, but don't be don't be what word am I looking for? Just don't be disappointed if your app takes longer to get to a certain point, especially if you have anything AI powered in your app, because it's thinking before it gives you the results. So that's usually what's going to happen, rather than we click on a button like sign in and we automatically are signed in. You don't have to really have a thinking process to sign in, but when apps are loading or thinking on something, it's going to take time. So it gave you some key points again. About project building, personalizing a schedule, resources, collaboration features, including workshops, progress tracking. And as you can see also, being that these were two different ideas, it didn't give the same exact thing. So sometimes you also want to make sure that you're not getting the same results for every person that's using these applications. Okay. Then I'm going to set a date again. I'm going to create that goal. And then again, all of this was built just from this simple prompt right here. Okay, so I didn't have to go too complex, but again, if I did want to go into more detail, I could, to kind of make it. And then it gave me a 7 day, so the other one was 6 days. It gave me how much time I would be spending on this. So you should take 20 minutes to define and propose, um, define purpose and users, different things like that. Again, create an MVP, map user journey, so on and so on, to be able to get into your goal. Okay. So now we don't have, I don't think, that much time. So I'm gonna go through the rest of the slides, and then I'm going to see if we can do like a breakout of some sort. Or I'll just give you the ideas, and then in your spare time, see if you can do them, and then like send them to me on LinkedIn or something, and then we can kind of review it together. Okay. So what I just showed you was the live demo of the Idea Expander app. So I didn't do it where I prompted it and then showed you how it builds it, because it might take, a few seconds. But that's kind of what I did, and it was able to build that, I would say, in like 5 minutes or so. So basically thinking about the formula that we have here, so what it does, who's it for? That's something that I didn't add in, like who would this be for? I gave it the screens and the UI, so I gave it pictures as well to kind of help it get an idea of that. Then special behavior. So again, I said when you complete it, it goes into a certain jar, anything like that. Um, some other pictures I said like use this color. So as you can see, it kind of took like uh these colors that we have here, like this purple gradient type of thing. And then for this one, I said, can you set it up like this? So as you can see, when I put in the date and time, it was set as these fill-in points here. Okay. So now we talk about the code. So when we talk about understanding the code, ideally, when you are starting to build applications or vibe coding, I do highly suggest that you have a bit of understanding of the code that's being used. So you ideally don't have to know every single line if you are vibe coding, but what I do suggest is that you know the language that's being coded. So if you have to go on to YouTube and watch a 1 hour session on React or React Native, I would suggest to do that. Not to really just, I would say learn how to code, but to understand what's happening. Because there are times that you do want to fix things, or you do want to work with a developer, and you do want to, if you're not a developer, and you do want to explain to people, like, hey, this is what I want to change. I know this is this and this is that. So that's really important to be able to tap into that side of things. So if we break this down really quick, so we have something called a React component. So the component is basically a reusable building block for of the UI. So now that you saw these sticky notes that we have here, so these if we go here, these cards, as you can see, they all look the same. They all have the same UI to them. They have the name, they have a due date, they have, so on. So this is what this component is here. So that's a component. So within that component, you have, it's reusable. So it's going to create the same thing for every idea card. So what this looks like is called function. You call it sticky note. So you would give it a name of exactly what it is. It would have the idea and it would return the idea title. Okay, the title that we see. So that would be your functionality that keeps repeating and it's able to be reused over and over. Then we have something called a use state. So with use state, this is the app's memory. So this basically stores the ideas of the list. So it stores it, the current goal and whether the task is done or not. So we have ideas, we have set ideas, we have something called const, and this is going to regenerate again and store that memory for each idea that you have. And then something like this would continue on where it would be like use state and it would have if idea is complete, then put in jar. If not, stay in this place or anything like that. So these are like those components of that. Then we have what is called API call. So this is where your app talks to the AI and you send a prompt and get the AI generated information back. So again, we fetch that information of expand the idea. So like as you saw when I gave it an idea and then I generated it to expand, this was a API call. So it was fetching that information and then giving me back an idea based on what I gave it. Then we have local storage. So what this looks like is the browser has a built-in save file. So if I, as you can see here, all of these are things that I did prior to this live webinar here. So as you can see, it still stored my ideas from before. So none of these got deleted. It didn't refresh. And then I had to come back. Like these are things that I had prior to coming here. And these are things I created probably like months ago. Okay, so it's something that also you want to have a local storage. So when people are using your application, that their information is being saved and they can kind of come back to it, even if they close out the tab. Okay, and that would be a local storage. And then you have dot set item, you give it what it is, goals or anything like that. And you also want to make sure like the names and stuff match up. Um, yeah, so this would kind of be a little bit about the code. So understanding different things like what is an API call, what is use state, what is a React component. So knowing what those things are, but not necessarily having to memorize how to code it in order to um, build your application. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. Then we talked about how the idea expander app works. So as you can see here, the user types an idea, React updates the state of it. Okay. Then the API call is sent to AI. AI then returns an expanded text, and then the UI renders a sticky note. Okay. We saw that step by step. So the user types an idea, right? Then after I click expand on idea, we go into the React updates that state after I put in an idea. So now it's realizing that I typed something different into there. Then the API call is sent to the AI. And then as we can see, it expanded on my idea. Then I set the goal for that, right? After expanding on that idea. And then once I set the goal, it comes to this section of giving me a sticky note in the UI. Okay, so that's how the code is working in the idea expander. So as you can see here as well, so we have your idea, your use state, so idea listed, store and state, calling the AI to expand an idea. Okay, so this would be the code to expand that idea, and then saving your goal to the local storage, and now you have the UI of that goal and that set item that you have. Okay. So then we talk about iterating and fixing bugs with AI. So some of the bugs that we have here, these are considered weak prompts and strong prompts. So like I talked about, like if I need help with fixing a bug, so we and I have done some weak prompts before if I'm just like over it and I'm like, hey, just fix this here. So I'm like, it's broke, fix it. Like I've done that. But again, sometimes it starts fixing things I don't want it to fix. So you don't want to do that because then you'll run into more issues. So like instead of saying it's broken, you could say the sticky note doesn't show up after I click save. The set ideas call is there, but the list doesn't update. So ideally, also when you start to learn to understand code rather than actually coding, you can say things like the set ideas or the API call is not working, things like that to be able to help the AI really understand what you're trying to do or like make it look better. So, what do you want to look better? Like, oh, I want to change the background to this color. I want to make sticky notes yellow. Okay. So, different things like that. Let me actually see. Let's try it. Let me see if I have any credits on here. Make sticky notes yellow. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. So let's let that build out. So then we have add more features. So again, what features do you want to add? So add a progress bar for each goal showing that percent of the daily tasks are complete. The AI part doesn't work. And again, the AI expand route returns a 500 error. Can you check the fetch and error handling? Okay, so like being really specific when you're trying to fix or debugging so that it's able to understand what you're trying to do. Let's see if it was able to do that. Okay, it's still working. All right, perfect. Let me just say something. Plan 1 year old first birthday. Something a little more simple. So now we're gonna see what this might look like for the sticky notes. Let me see the question in the chat. If you build the front end using V0, what database would you recommend for storing your user data and why? So V0 has a specific database. They have something called Subbase, or I'm not sure. I believe you can use Firebase on V0 as well. So when you start to have information, as you can see here, if I scroll up, it asks me to install Subbase. Okay. So when it starts to see that you have information that has like a local storage and like people are signing in or people have all these ideas, it'll start to show you it'll start to build that database for you. So you don't really even have to do anything. I would say Subbase and Firebase are both good ones because they're free. They have a free version as well of unlimited. But then when you want to start adding like extra things, it'll probably have like a pricing one, but those are the two that I would say would be good for anything, especially like even other applications. Like if I build on Base 44 or Lovable, I think their first suggestion is Firebase, but with V0 they suggest Subbase, and a lot of people use Subbase. For the back end of V0, so if you look at the code here, it's really like what they suggest. You can kind of do whatever back end you want. What they are using is basically like React in um whatever storage that you want to have with it. It doesn't really, it's not as particular one because you can tell it as well, like, oh, use this backend or use like I could have probably built this with like I could have said just use HTML and CSS. Like I don't want you to do this React Native or anything to build this out. Like I want to see a front end of HTML. So it can be easier for me to code. So you can kind of tell it, especially what those are as well. Like it doesn't have to always build what it does. Now, when you don't give it specific tasks as that, it's going to just kind of go on and start building. But you can kind of give it, what you wanted to do. Okay. I hope that answered the questions. Okay. So now I'm going to go to, let's see, the idea expander. Again, it shows you the code. Another thing about V0 that I really like is that you can edit the code without having to like pay for it. I know like I think base 44, if you try to edit the code, you have to pay to edit the code. But if you want to edit the code here, you can just go right in and edit it. So, as you can see again with the code or something, things that might start to look familiar to you as well, like back to goals. So this would show if I was in the daily task view. It has like these options here. um Sticky note, as you can see, I have some errors here, so I would ask it, hey, can you fix the whatever errors in sticky note, and so on. Okay. So 1 year old birthday, I'm gonna set a date, create it, and let's see if the sticky notes are yellow. Okay. So again, just thinking about next steps, deploying your app. Again, you could deploy directly from V0. I would say again, learn the basics of whatever code that's being used. You don't have to learn it before or after, but I think it's just a good task to be like, okay, let me learn for 20 minutes of the day of what, this code is being used. Again, React Native, Swift, there are a few other like um, app building code that's used to build apps. You don't necessarily have to use like React. I've used React for the past couple of years. I used to teach a high school class for mobile app design, and that was kind of the one that we used. So I kind of stuck to it a little bit. But again, if something's better for you, some people like different coding languages or anything like that. Um, Add a real AI API key. You can create your own API keys. You can use a database that creates API keys. Again, add a real database, Subbase, Firebase. There are other ones. Google also has, I think Firebase might be with Google. But I know like when I used to teach a software development course, we used Google Firebase, where users would sign in to something like a fake like Netflix or a replica of Netflix to watch like reviews, previews of movies and stuff like that. And then the user signed in, it would go to the Google. Then we have again trying out Cursor, to see if you start coding like VS Code and different things like that. So now we see that we have these yellow sticky notes. Okay. So as you can see, again, it's really simple. You don't have to prompt too much. I would say when you're building stuff, try to be as simple as possible. Don't try to overcomplicate things because that's when stuff starts to break. I've been building out a few apps that are more complex than these, and sometimes I'm just like, I'll give it like all this information, then it starts like going crazy. So I'm like, okay, let me break it down in smaller parts. So if you want to build stuff, I would say give it smaller things to do rather than trying to give it a whole thing to build and then it goes into like this stage of like just breaking. Because what I could have said is I could have said make this yellow and then do this and then do that and then do this, and it would have started to like try to analyze all these things at once and probably wouldn't have even made these yellow. Okay. So also just being like not looking at these app builders as something that's just like this magical thing that's just going to be able to do all these things at once. Also try to be like fair with it of like what you want to build part by part. Like as if you were building it yourself, like take it part by part instead of giving it a whole dosage of this big like Facebook app that you want to build and now it like doesn't even know what to do next. Okay? Um so what is the limitations of V0 in on real projects? What do you mean by that as far as limitations of what? Like, can you give me an example of what a limitation might be for V0 whenever you're, let me see. So I don't have time to do the breakout room that I wanted to do. Um, But you can follow me on LinkedIn and I'll post it on LinkedIn if you want to participate and kind of share with me what you got. I also have a Discord channel of my 30-day building challenge that I've put on hold, but because I'm working on an app. And I'll also talk about that too. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll be able to see that app that I've built out using V0. It's in beta version. So that's another thing too, making sure you're building stuff and then before deploying it, putting it into a beta version before putting it out into like the world because sometimes people might not even want your app. Well, usually even if they don't, who cares? Still launch it. But at the same time, you just want to make sure that this is something that people can use and that you can update features before you deploy it completely because once you deploy it, you have to like kind of edit it and then update it again and go through all those stages again. So, kind of checking for all those features before you get there. Okay? So thank you all so much. Again, if you have more questions, you could DM me, you can email me. I also have a big like tech network. So if you are building something or need help with something, I can suggest people that would be best for those specific things that they can help with. And yeah.